We in here. This is the drink to start the video. See what's in it. So what they got: cucumber, kale, spinach, celery, lemon, and parsley. And lemon always break up the monotony when it comes to making juice. It won't spike your blood sugar, and it'll balance out any of the the bitter taste and the off taste that people might get when they mix juice. And it's just one of the ones that Whole Foods makes on the fly. So carbs, 16 grams, 3 grams of fiber, 7 grams of sugar, 6 grams of protein. Not bad. And for the water, the Fiji, because the place I went didn't have my favorite. So, yep. The usual, I gotta have the water in the building and drinks in the building for y'all when I get in here. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap for about an hour. I put the post up on Instagram as a shout out that I was gonna be on live right now, and someone hit me up shouting out from Lancaster, and I'm like, yo, that's funny. I'm like, I'm not too far from that area right now, waiting to take some photos. And it's not a bad day to take photos because right now it's a little over 70 out here in this area and in Philly. So for people who go out to Philly, it's close to about 70 degrees right now. It's supposed to be like 80 again and 70 something in the next 2 days, which is crazy because it's going to be raining too. But we get such up and down weather. Like right after that, I think all next week is supposed to be in the 50s. So, that is what it is. Eventually, I don't know what's up with the guy, Kali. You guys probably know a guy named Kali who does live streams, and he do some heavy-handed stuff. They talk about the Sky family and all the stuff like that. But what I used to enjoy about him doing his live streams is he would show not only disasters, but he would talk about the UV index and some of the weather patterns over the years. He was one of the few people who would talk about weather um, as a conscious like thing to look at. So he would start off showing like all the disasters. He definitely kind of got comfortable with the doom and gloom stuff because he would talk about how the godly, the melanated people, the earth is being cleansed for you and stuff like that, and the Sky family and all that will return. But I used to link up with him in the gym every now and then, and we would talk our stuff. And then COVID happened, and he had his channel going, and then he's been doing his own thing. So I don't see him often anymore. I think they might have knocked down both his channels or they got him on hold because his videos are up, but he hasn't been live in a long time. So I figured maybe they got him on hold, or maybe he's on another page that I don't know about. But it's under Kali, Kali. He wear like the large glasses with the rose in his hair. So but yeah, I ain't seen him in a minute. I don't know if any of y'all ever watched him. T-shirt order via PayPal. If it's George takes care of the orders once they come through. So if you want afterward, I can run a check on it if you want. I have the ability to check on orders, but George is pretty good at running the orders. So if an order goes through the website to the PayPal, he's the one who sees it first. I'm the web designer, so anything that connects to that website, I'm going to see it also. But the alerts go to the email, so I only check them if something is going crazy. But yeah, you should be fine. We haven't, at least up to this point, for the last like 3 years, there's never been any issue with the orders. So you should be fine. George takes pretty good care of that. So salute, Emmanuel's in the building. And Barbara in here as usual. That's right. I see some other people lingering in the background. Feel free to say what's up. I know some of y'all might be at work checking in. Some of y'all might be live far from here, so your time periods are different. But yeah, I wanted to check in, run my mouth a little bit before I go photograph some track and field. This is going to be an easy one. There's no team photos. I would have to be like an idiot to be late to this event, even though I'm in the parking lot, because even if they blow the gun on the first race, it's track and field. Like there's tons of photos that I can take within the 2 hour block I'm here. So it's not a pressured situation. If it were team photos, then I would have to be strict on time because you gotta get them team photos out the way before they get to running around. But Mary Lane in here first live. That's what's up. Be more understanding. Y'all be finding these names. I wonder if that's I wonder if that's a play on Baltimore. You're not from Baltimore. You just be more. But yeah, I wanted to come in just to stay in touch, check in every now and then. I wanted to talk about the big boys, the big health killers. And the funny thing is, it always crosses my mind every time I enter a store or a supermarket to try and get some food. And I'm gonna jump into this real quick because one thing I can always say is when you're trying to find your healthy food, you're gonna find like the big you got like the big four, but then there's like well, actually I guess you could say it's the big five, but um you let's start off with the biggies, right? So most of the time when you try and buy a food, whether it's healthy, not healthy, whatever it is, you're gonna find a couple of things thrown in there that's usually the biggest damagers of health, either due to too high of a volume or just outright something that's bad for you that tastes good, right? So you got meat, bread, cheese/dairy, sugar, and bad salts like MSG. And well, I ain't gonna say bad salts, but bad sodium. So MSG would be one of them. So there's of course there's plenty more big players when it comes to the big killers of health. But those right there are the ones that really squeeze you out like on your daily living. Because like for instance, I on the way to this school, Whole Foods is convenient. So I wanted to get me a fruit bowl. I always like get me a fruit bowl from the Beach Bowls place, where they give you sliced banana, sliced strawberry, shaved coconut on top of like blended acai berries. You guys probably might have had an acai bowl before, but they're very good. And of course, there's other things that people like to mix inside of it too. But yeah, that's normally what I would get. But I hit up Whole Foods, right? And I'm in there and I'm like, all right, let's see what they got in the trays for the hot food. I go to the salad joint first. It's like a corn salsa kind of thing in there, but they threw cheese in it, right? And so I say, all right, let me go to the kale salad. Like they have like a kale and beet salad in there. And it's like and they vinegar that. Like it's a sherry vinegar. So I get it. Like I mean, in small amounts, it's not gonna be real damaging to you. But a part of the sugar train, I need y'all to know that alcohol and vinegar are in there, right? Black Voltron in the building, the student master, what's going on? I see y'all. But then so we take a trip over to the hot food section, right? And I always find a couple of things in the hot food section. I'm not so sure why they fall in love so much with canola oil. That seems to be their thing, but that's still there's still the verdict is still out on that, right? Russell Lawrence, what's going on? But in the hot section, I'm usually good. I'm usually good there. So I got the cabbage. They had the like a garlic cabbage with salt and pepper. So that was fine. Like just some straight up cabbage. Then they had some broccoli with some bell peppers, and it's usually yellow and red bell peppers. So you get your pigment, you get your color, like, and it's a vibrant green too. So you could tell that they kind of steam the broccoli and then they probably finish it with like canola oil and they probably saute the peppers and stuff into it. So that was fine. So I got those two, and then I was back on the cold salad side. They had like a butternut squash. I don't want to say salad, but it was like a mix, right? And it had onions, butternut squash. Um, there was it was what was that, rosemary? I think it was sage. I'm trying to think. I think it was sage I was eating because I'm looking at the texture, the way they cut it up. I believe it was sage that was in there, and there was and that was fine. But of course, to shine it on, they had sweetened dried cranberries in there, sweetened, right? So that's the way of like sliding a little something in there. So what generally winds up happening is when you go to certain places, like no matter how much you compile your food, there's always something getting snuck in. Like try going to Salad Works. You can build your own salad. So that's a big plus. You can walk out of there with a healthy meal with nothing questionable in it. But chances are when you get to the dressing point, like for instance, the safe dressing for me is olive oil with lemon. And if you go to Salad Works, they got they was like, I'm like, I'm looking at the sign and I'm like, oh, let me get the olive oil and lemon. And when they repeated it back to me, they said, Oh, the olive oil and lemon vinaigrette. You see, like that. That's how they sneak it in on you, right? And then the there's an avocado dressing where it might be like avocado and lime, but it's an avocado lime ranch. See, like it sneaking it in on you, right? Now we know Catalina and Thousand Island, you got a sugar issue with those. And then you got other mayonnaise based stuff where obviously you're just gonna be extra high in saturated fat and oil. So that's just not gonna be good for you. And even with the mayonnaises, they sneak sugar into that. So you're not really getting away, right? So you get what else did they have in there? Of course they had meats, but usually when they have meats, the meats have a sauce on them and there's like a sugar in it. Um, Pasta, you know what it's hitting for. Pasta is just a branch of that's a branch of carbohydrate that connects to bread. It's just like beer. So beer is like you talking about the ingredients that make bread, right? So if you get most of your bread out of the supermarket, it's going to be a bread with sugar added to it. So that's a given. So you already got the bread, you got the yeast, and you got the sugar. So that's a given right there. It's not going to be a traditional old school bread where, you know, you don't make it with all the yeast and the sugar and all the craziness and stuff. And then you get you like peanuts, like you want peanuts, right? So people get it as peanut butter. Sugar is added in that. Like most of the times people are not going to get like the just straight peanuts, organic peanuts just blended. Most people ain't going to get that. And if they do, they're going to buy jelly with it, which is going to be the sugar, and then they're going to put it on the bread. And most of the time they're not choosing a bread that's like solid, that's like high in fiber. They're just choosing one because it has a lot of seeds in it or it's wheat bread or something like that, right? So then you get what else? Now you get your standards, like your standard stuff. So it's summertime coming, right? So you have hot dog, which is literally most people don't even know what's in it, but that's like sodium hell. And then you're gonna have the bread to go along with that. So you got meat and bread. And anyone who used to watch what's his name? I hope you guys can hear me too, and my mic ain't down because sometimes when I keep the air on in the car, like it makes the sound go crazy. But Dr. Layla Africa would put people onto these things and let people know the ways that they kind of trick you into things. Like when me and Dr. Inky did our event that was in Philly, I made it a point at a certain point in the event to show people the cold versus warm climate and how things, how things go, where we got this whole hunter gatherer thing from. And I was trying to show people how like we have not as a people everywhere always been hunter gatherers. I was like, that's a concept of bringing two worlds together. When you're in a warm climate, you're a gatherer because nothing's going to make you like as some people. All right, thanks, Black Voltron. Yeah, I need to know that RTP in the building. But what they would do, I agree with the way Inky put it. He was like, if you got fruit falling down everywhere and growing all on the trees, you're not going to one day just decide, let me just hop on the back of another animal and slay him to see what it tastes like. Like that's not something that's going to suddenly just become culture. That's something that has to build. So your climate dictates what it is that you receive. So you get the fruits and stuff when you're in the warm climate. So it's just right there for you. You have no reason to chase anything else down. And it's not like it's nasty. Like if you're eating bananas, mangoes, strawberries, papayas, like it's not like this stuff is nasty. Like you're really going in. And it's got the fiber, it's got the sugar, it's got the mineral content. It's not gonna hurt you if you have, if your body hasn't been compromised in some way. You go to a cold climate, you got to ask yourself, what's the survivable way in cold climate? Most of the time, you're watching your environment. Polar bears, coyotes, like, you get these different types of animals who are eating each other. And if you're from that environment, you're observing. And now there's no trees and everything growing anything around you. There's some fish. You can see like the bear swiping up some fish, like some salmon and stuff. But no, you're not gonna, you're in a cold climate. You're trying to stay warm, you're trying to find food. And in that climate, food is kind of fleeting. The first, if the animal feed is what you're gonna get, you gotta be the first to catch and kill. And then you gotta defend. So that climate is conducive to what you would call hunter. So that makes sense. So when you got the hunter in the cold climate meeting the gatherer in the warm climate, that's where hunter gatherer comes from. You don't just have hunter gatherer because a human who was born decided, hey, the tree is growing everything. Well, let me just go hack up one of these animals. Like, nah, don't work like that. It's climate based. And this is where you get the concept that Dr. Sebi was trying to put in there. And he was talking about how, the gorilla doesn't eat like the polar bear. But what's funny is you'll find that some of these really big animals actually have vegan diets and they still get big. So it goes to show you these concepts that we're given about what we should eat are already flawed. So for some reason, people think that every human being has to have the meat, and then you get into that protein argument. I've talked about protein, on ends for I don't know how long, telling people about proteins and how they create shape and how a protein is not this autonomous thing that you just find in meat. A protein is a string of amino acids, right? So I've beaten that bush so many different times. Don't really need to go over it anymore now. If some of y'all still need to see, I mean, just check some of the past videos. I do like to repeat some things, but just understand that protein is amino acids. And in order to make a certain shape of a protein, you need to string certain amino acids together into a certain shape to make it function. So you have essential and non-essential amino acids. So your job is to eat enough variety. If you're eating healthy, you're eating a variety of vegetation. And you eat enough variety of that where you get all of the amino acids, and then your body can just start putting together the proteins you need for your body. Okay, so that's the thing. Now, I was talking in the last live stream, we talked heavily, and if you saw some of my posts that I was putting up, I think I put one up on Instagram and I put one up on YouTube where I was showing you guys me stirring in some psyllium husk into some hot water and how it gels up. So the fiber content, we were explaining the difference between soluble and insoluble fiber you guys might see on the back of some of your packages. And I was explaining in the last live stream about how soluble fiber just means that it actually absorbs into water. So you get what is it? You take it, it's like imagine if like there's a plant that you pull out of the ground, and when you tear a piece of the leaf off and you dunk it in water, and then all of a sudden it just absorbs into the water and it starts to thicken. But when you get soluble fiber that absorbs into the water, it makes the water gel up and it makes the water thicker. And because it's thicker, that means its ability to hold things are greater. Okay, instead of like imagine this: you got a glass of water. Usually, if you dump some herbs or something in that glass of water, you got to keep stirring it up before you drink it, or you got to drink the whole thing so you can reach the bottom and just get that last swig that pulls everything with it. Normally, you got to do that. But when you gel the water and you stir it in, when the gel solidifies, it sits and all of the herbs are scattered throughout, so it holds the structure of it. So a gel is a type of structured water. Ice is a type of structured water. So this allows the ability to hold more things. Um, it creates a better electric gradient, and also gelled water has better surface area, is what I was talking about. Which is why gelling things is a great way to get herbal content to be absorbed into your body, because you got the water, which is great for absorption, help get things through. But when you gel it, you help slow down the process of things moving through that digestive tract. So if you got herbs attached to that gel, like you guys ever ordered KTC3, and you look at it, it's very dark, it's got a lot of minerals in it, and it's got sea moss in it. So it's gelled up. And water is used to make sea moss, and sea moss holds like, 200 times its weight in water, I believe. So the fact that sea moss holds its weight in water, it's already a hydrated product. So now you put all these other things in it, and when you blend it up, now you got this great distribution of herbals and minerals inside of the gel. So when it slides through your digestive tract, just imagine taking a piece of Velcro and a piece of gel and sliding it on top of the Velcro. It's going to have like a gelling effect, and it's going to sit there and stick to it. Well, the little projections on the Velcro, that's like the little villi inside your digestive tract that help grab the food as it rolls through your digestive tract to pull it in. So when we're talking about the big killers of health, it's because they're missing these things like meat. Go ahead online right now, pull up any of the meats. You're going to notice it. Ask how much fiber in chicken, how much fiber in beef, how much fiber in pork, how much fiber in turkey. Pull any of them up. It's going to say zero. There's no fiber in any of them. There's no fiber in any of the meat. So you automatically know the moment you pull the meat in, some other object has to be used to pass it through your system, because fiber is one of the primary products to get things out of your system to keep your digestive tract clean. So you can you figure you get the fiber. The fiber has better surface area, so it's able to grab things along the edge of the digestive tract. It doesn't just help layer a coating of gel and therefore hydrating the edge of the digestive tract to keep it slick so things move through, but also as it's sliding through, it has the ability to grab off things that have been sticking to the edges of the actual digestive tract that don't belong there. So when it reaches the end of the digestive tract, when you're down into the large intestine, the insoluble fiber will now help package the food. This is why when you guys eat a lot of leafy, like you ever just take a day and eat a lot of leafy greens, when you go to the bathroom, it's a bunch of binded up cellulose, so to speak. So it's just it looks like a big wrap of green stuff when you go to the bathroom. That's the fiber. That's the insoluble fiber, the packaging that holds in the minerals and the water to the actual food. And then the soluble fiber is already absorbed into the water that you got in your body. So to help that move through and be drawn in. So now, yeah, I know. If you're right, RTP, if y'all looked it up, y'all probably noticed it. It pops up quick too. It's not really a big deal. You just type in, yo, how much fiber in chicken? If I was home, I'd have a second screen open for you guys to show it to you. But it would say, it would literally say 0 fiber, which means the thing that allows it to move slickly through the digestive tract and package it and pull it out doesn't exist. It also is not going to be high in water because it's a dense food. A meat is a dense food. So most of the time we cook it with oils, and that could be acid depending on what oil you're cooking it with. So you have to chase it with a lot of water and a lot of herbs and your own types of fiber. That's why they tend to throw veggies in the food with it. But remember, veggies have their own proper packaging where they have the proper minerals, fiber, and water inside of them to carry themselves through and out. So when you add in some extra food in there, you're kind of getting behind the 8 ball there. So that can create a bit of a problem. Now we move on to the other one, sugar. Sugar being among one of the craziest ones. And if you guys have been following Dr. Inky, you know that he's harping on sugar heavy because he's showing you how diabetes is connected to everything. So sugar being another one of the heavy big hitters and killers of health is because of its ability to dehydrate you. Because natural sugars, remember, fruits, vegetables, they have the proper amount of water and fiber to carry the other stuff out. So it's able to drop off some sugar for you to have as energy. It also has the fiber content, insoluble and soluble, so it helps it gel up. So that means that the sugar that is in it, because it's a gel now, the sugars move through the digestive tract slower. And anything that moves slower can't spike your blood pressure as fast. So that means as you go throughout your day and you're moving around, sugar is slow trickling into your system to keep your energy reserves high. So now you're burning it at a normal rate instead of taking just a bunch of crystallized sugar like donuts and cookies and candy and stuff where there is no fiber or none of those minerals and things to help carry it through. So what happens is you kind of chase it with water because a lot of heavy sugar stuff makes you want water. And if you're really trying to kill yourself, you go hard on the soda. You chase it with soda. So let me get some candy and some juice and some soda. So you just hyper carrying the sugar through. So, and remember, you're not getting any fiber when you get the sugary flavored drinks. So you might say use strawberry juice, right? But if it's not real strawberry in there and it has added sugar in it, there's more sugar crystals in that water to make it sweet than there is the water to help carry it through, and there's no fiber. So when sugars as a crystal get into the body and there's more crystallized or crystals of sugar or more sugar in the food than there is water, your body got to pull that water from somewhere and it's going to pull it out of you and dehydrate you. That's why part of diabetes is dry lips, dried out blood vessels, which if they pop, then you lose your vision. If they pop in your ear, then you lose your hearing, and so on and so forth, right? I'm on a Ray diet. Did you mean to type that? Vegetables and fruits, but I'm not going to the toilet a lot. I'm trying to number 2 to lose weight, but nothing moving. Okay. This one's crazy. All right, so if you're knocking down high amounts of fruits and vegetables, you have to understand when you do that, you have to raise the amount of water content. A lot of people think because it has the water in it, it's going to get through the system fast. When you raise the amount of fiber in your diet, fiber makes you bulk and it bulks so you're not hungry as long, and it causes the food to move through your digestive tract slower. So when you first start doing this for a while, your bathroom breaks start to spread apart up front. That's the first thing. The second thing is if you're doing it because you're trying to chase behind things you think might be wrong in your health and you're just trying to do a cleanse of something, I would say start with bitters first because bitters increase the digestive fluids. And you can add in things like senna or cascara sagrada. Senna is abrasive as hell. Like you're gonna feel like your body ran out of liquid, but you still gotta go to the bathroom and it's gonna burn. So senna, that's abrasive if you want to try that. But go for something that has more of a laxative effect, like cascara sagrada, things that will make you past some things. Maybe you need to just kickstart your digestive tract. Because remember, when you change it, it's a few things that causes that problem. Your number one, if you changed over to that diet after eating a certain thing for a long period of time, your body needs to take time to repopulate the gut with the bacteria that will process the new food you're eating. The second thing is you're hyper raising your fiber. And I hope you're not taking the fruits and vegetables and other digestive what do I want to call it? Other laxative aids, because then you're pulling water out of your body while at the same time eating healthy food. You're doing too much. And I always try and warn people of doing too much. Okay. Yeah, see, because what you did was you might have thrown a lot of magnesium out of your body. And if you throw magnesium or calcium out of your body heavily, it can make you weaker or more rigid. And most of the time people throw the magnesium out. So now you got to rebalance your body with potassium and magnesium, because magnesium's a relaxer, calcium is a contractor, but then you also have potassium, which regulates the electrical current within the heart, and then you got sodium, which allows you to hold the water. So you got current control through sodium and potassium. You got relaxing and constricting based on calcium and magnesium. So when these things fall out of balance, that's why I tell people, like, when you start doing things to help yourself out, don't feel like your health's in a bad position and then you don't go see a doctor and you start trying to do things on your own, because you'll strike the wrong chord. You might find out you have an inflamed gut and your body's having trouble processing, and then you start dumping food on top, makes the situation worse. So you don't want to do that. You want to find out what the problem is from the doctor first. So they'll tell you, like, when you're in this position, don't do too much of that, because that might exacerbate the issue. So if you're doing fruit, veggies, you're getting fiber. Then you take a laxative, which is going to make you dump a lot of water and dehydrate you. So you start dehydrating yourself and having high amounts of fiber, you start heading towards things like a prolapsed colon, because you're kind of overdoing it. So you're dumping hydration on top of dehydration, and you're lowering magnesium, and you need magnesium to make things move. It's kind of weird, but it's like too much magnesium or too little. You get constipation with too much magnesium or too little. You get weakness, and you get heavy, like, shaking and contractility with too much or too little calcium. So it's weird. Some of these vitamins and minerals, you get what we would call the same word, but slightly different reaction depending on, what you do with it, right? So for instance, constipation can be the stool is too rigid, it's hard to go to the bathroom, or too loose. Everything just comes flying out. So that was something Dr. Laila Africa taught. He was like, it's all constipation. He was like, constipation rigid, constipation like liquid. Like, it's the same thing on both sides. Um, why do bodybuilders diet work? Oh, remember, when them bodybuilders be flooding themselves with a bunch of food, they take digestive aids. Most of any of them, there's certain things bodybuilders will not tell you. You got to be in the in crowd. But one thing you can find out, like Inky taught y'all about insulin and HDH. Those are growth factors. Like, insulin makes you gain weight. Human growth factor makes you hyper gain weight. And sometimes they use steroids that make sure your electron transport chain decouple, which produces heat, which burns fat faster and speeds up metabolism, but it causes a lot of heating inside of your body. And remember, your body got to remain in homeostasis. You don't want to do that for too long, because that'll cause damage. Because at the end of the day, you're creating a hyperelectric gradient, and you're never fulfilling the electric current by bringing the cytochrome 5 back online to smash the ATP together. You're kind of like leaving that part out, and it's generating heat because the electricity that is not dissipating. Your body has a heating and cooling mechanism to help remain in homeostasis. And if you break that, that causes, like, sometimes advantages for certain things if you control it, but disadvantages for people who don't know how to control it. Where do you get bitters from? You can get, if you want, let me see. I gotta admit, I don't know how long it'll take you to get it, because I know he makes things from scratch and he has a lot of back orders. But if you go to drinky.com, somebody throw that in the chat for me. DRENQI.com. I like his bitters. He wasn't lying when he said, if you feel like you're out of kilter with your with going to the bathroom, like me, I would have days where I'm traveling a lot and I'm eating crazy and stuff, and my bathroom breaks, my number twos, would go down to 1 a day. And what would happen is, when I started taking his bitters, I started noticing I wasn't just having that morning bathroom break you're supposed to have. It started, all of a sudden, I started having one close to the finishing meals. So I would have a midday one and sometimes a night one, depending on how much food I was eating. So his did build up to a point where it was like it was one a day, and then it raised back to two a day, and then occasionally three a days because I'm a two meal a day person. And sometimes that one of those meals got a lot of pieces around it. Like it's juice, it's water, it might be like a platter full of food, and then there'll be some type of like snack on the back end, and then I'll chase it with a smoothie after. So it's like I eat all this stuff in a short period of time. And that was always my issue. Like too much stuff in a short period of time, whether it was healthy or not. So, and then my second meal would be a very small one. So either the first one was small or the second one was small. Where else can you get bitters? If you're in Philly, you can go to Black and Nobel. I know Brother Prince, he makes a bitter down there. His bitter tastes like almost like Jamaican jerk sauce. And I was like, it's an interesting bitter right there. Haven't had his in a while. I couldn't tell you how it worked because I didn't take it consecutively enough. But I remember I bought one bottle because I just wanted to try it, try it for a little bit to see what happened. Um, if you can't find any, you can actually look up bitter herbs, and you can find those herbs, and you can find out the proper serving size for each, and you can combine them in a tea, and you can start taking the bitters like that. Um, like for instance, dandelion tea. Dandelion is good for iron too. So there are some things that you can use. If you again, you could use Cascara Sagrada. That is a natural herbal laxative. If you mix it with senna, you really trying to put yourself through the ringer. That's going to be painful. You got to learn how to mix the herbs in a way where it's kind of like abrasive, but kind of cooling. So like you're thinking like marshmallow root, not peppermint, spearmint, and all that. We're not talking about that. There is another one that I used a lot, and I cannot remember the name of it. I was a big fan of it, but it gels too when you put it inside of water. But I can't remember the name. I know psyllium husk is the one I learned later on, but there was one before that I can't remember the name of, but I was stirring it and it had a coconut taste whenever I was stirring it. Yeah, that's it. Black Voltron put it up for you, Danielle. So you can see on Dr. Inky's website, that's where you could get it. Again, his delivery times are sporadic. I've had delivery times 5 months apart, and sometimes I got things as fast as 2 weeks. So it depends on how big his back order is. I notice his website doesn't. I don't know because he got his kids if he likes to do the like on our website for Urban Nerds. If an order is limited, I can put because I know how to design my own website. I don't know if Inky does his own, but you can put limit orders on there. KT does it. Like if he has a certain amount of C3 for sale, the website will stop people from being able to order if the amount that he placed up there goes away. Dr. Inky doesn't do it. He just lets the orders come in and he fulfills the orders as he gets to them. So different method, different people. So used to do bentonite clay. Yeah, you mentioned that. I remember you mentioned that. You sent a message on that. You used to use bentonite clay with the psyllium. Um, the psyllium was, yes, that was the one that I used, but that's not the bentonite clay was not it. My wife uses bentonite clay for kind of like a mask, but no, the other one that I'm talking about is not bentonite clay, and I haven't used the other one in so long. But it's a white I do know the name now. Slippery elm powder. That's what it's called. Slippery elm powder is a non-abrasive type of laxative. It is not fast. It gels things up, which means it creates a slowness and it kind of slicks. It's slick, so it slips the waste out. So, but if you start to find yourself using a bunch of stuff and you start to, find yourself like going a long period of time without going to the bathroom, you should just fast and keep the water coming in. And if you can get bitters behind it, do that too. But don't start chasing it with more fiber and more fruit and more vegetables. Just fast. Wait for things to catch up. But don't keep piling stuff on top. Like let your bathroom breaks do the trick. And make sure you're exercising because at the very least, if you got this energizing things, carbs sitting in your system, start burning them up. Because sometimes just movement will make your lymph system flow, which will make you go to the bathroom more. And get good sleep. Having horrible sleep will kill your bathroom cycles. So make sure you get really good sleep, and that'll be a good thing for you too. So sleep, water, fiber, heavy on the water, is really important. So keep that part. You got slippery elm at home? Throw that in. Don't mix it with anything else. Like you're already doing a lot of stuff. If you're gonna do the slippery elm, just do that. Don't go nuts, okay? Because you can't be taking a lack. You can't say like you don't like overdo it just because you're trying to do something. Pick something and let that take its toll. So if you were doing really bad on the diet, a lot of alcohol, a lot of vinegars, a lot of breads, meats, cheeses, and especially cheeses. If you're eating cheeses, that's going to block you up. That's negating everything you're doing. Also salt. If you're heavy on the salt's going to make you hold more water, which means your body, if it has toxins in it, it's not going to let it out as easy if you got too much salt in your system. So you need to flush it with just plain water to get that going out. So go heavy handed on the water. Um, Probably about a decent couple of 16-ounce cups every couple of hours. Don't go nuts on the water too. You don't want to flood yourself. You just want to have enough to kind of keep the stomach full and then wait a little bit. You will go to the bathroom quite a bit. So make sure you do that. But never go overboard when you guys are trying to, do these regimens. Don't start looking at every herb that's needed for digestion and take a laxative and eat all the fruits and veggies. Don't do too much. If you're eating heavy on the food, slowly switch it over to fruits and veggies, then slowly switch it over to liquid foods, then slowly go into a fasting state and make sure each day you're getting plenty of water. If you're not noticing that your ability to pass food is getting greater, now you want to go more into a herbal regimen. You want to stick bitters in there and you do bitters. So if the bitters don't do anything after a couple of weeks, which it should work within a couple of days actually. You should start getting back, see the cycles coming and getting into a normal cycle. If that's not working, you go see a doctor. And then you let the doctor let you know, and then you start tailoring anything extra around that. And be careful with laxatives because laxatives, most of them are built to dehydrate you. And when they dehydrate you, they only work while you're taking them. And then you stop going and you try and take more laxatives and it gets worse. So dumping laxatives on top of laxatives will just keep dehydrating you. And if you dehydrate enough, you'll knock one of your body systems offline and then things get worse when you stop taking a laxative. So you gotta take your time with this thing. Yes, I mentioned marshmallow root because I know marshmallow root is cooling and soothing. Would I use it as a natural laxative? No, it tends to do good for things like joints. So marshmallow root, you can do a little study on that, but I know if you just going by the name of it, you if you look it up, you'll notice that it's just one of those things that goes into the calming, soothing categories. And most of the time, things that are too aggressive, you want to combine them with things that are calming and soothing. So if you're taking something too heating, you can balance it out with something cooling. But just make sure you're not balancing it out with the wrong thing, or they just knock each other out. Some herbs people they take one herb and then they take another herb that might be good for something, but its reactive power contradicts the other thing you're taking. And this is why herbology gets tricky and why I tell y'all that I study the body first and I pick up herbs slowly but surely along the way. Like I understand there are categories for herbs: emollients, expectorants, aromatics, bitter herbs. They got these different groupings of them, and those groupings are there for a reason. So keep these things in mind because when you start mixing these herbs, it's not a joke. Like when I talked to Dr. Inky after taking his class and I explained to him how difficult I thought it was, he confirmed it. And I was like, this is looking like, I pick a herb because I think it's going to do something. I do the studies. It says how much of it you're supposed to have, how long you're able to take it before it becomes a problem, what the therapeutic amount is. Now, once you got all that, you look at the aromatics, the chemical formulas and all that, all the study you're doing at one herb. Now, when you decide to combine it with another herb, you got to find out what's the proper amounts because you might be combining it with a herb that seems like it fits well. Like, for instance, I tell people, like, as a basics, you want to have the target area, the effect you're going to put on it, and an accelerator. So, a driver, well, you want the action, the driver, and the accelerator. So, for instance, I could say I want to clean the blood in the liver. So I could do milk thistle and red clover. Red clover is considered a blood cleanser, and milk thistle is known for the liver. So now I would have my target, and then I would have my action. So my driver or the guy who's driving the car is going to drive it to the liver. And what's going to happen in the liver? It's going to have that red clover in there. So we're cleaning blood within the liver. If I switch the milk thistle out for hawthorn berry, now I'm driving it to the heart, but I'm still cleaning the blood. If I'm worried about having an addiction, I might want to mix that with chickweed. Chickweed is good for addictions, but where do addictions become an issue at? Liver. So milk thistle, chickweed. So alcohol tends to go straight to the liver. It's fructose, so it's going to go straight to the liver. I throw some chickweed in there to help get all of those constituents out of the liver, starts to rebalance me back out, right? But if I also have a blood issue because I got to go through that, now I bring in the red clover again. So that's just an example. What about the brain, right? I want to clean the blood in the brain. Ginkgo is a driver for the brain. So this is the stuff. That's funny if y'all hear that hollering in the background, they're not talking to me. But it did sound like it. That was funny. Let me see. Been off lamb meat for 2 years trying to get off seafood. Okay. This is funny you said that. I have an aunt who is literally having bowel issues And the doctor told her, stop with the seafood. The seafood is what was dragging her magnesium levels down, and she's trying to take a magnesium supplement. But the magnesium supplement is fiber heavy, not water heavy. So that's going to cause more constipation over time. So you get this milk of magnesia type stuff, and you just keep taking that all the time. Your body becomes reliant on it. It builds a tolerance to just that thing. So the seafood is actually what's hurting my eye, and eventually that turned into atrial fibrillation. So that caused like a tricky beating within our heart. Now, atrial fibrillation is different than ventral fibrillation. Ventral is the dangerous one. Atrial is kind of like walk it off and calm down on what it is you're doing. But you got to be careful with the seafood. If you have not done so yet, if you can get a consultation with someone like KT or Inky, KT I know is doing them right now. You can find it on his website, which is soionicbotanicals.com. If you can get a consultation with him, he has a way of because and it's best to do it with him. With me, if you're dealing with the body and you got your test results from your doctor, I can help. KT is good at location-based stuff. So he can talk to you about where your family comes from, where you come from, and he can look at maybe if you're supposed to have, based on where you come from, a little bit of fish or perhaps a little bit of meat in your diet. Like bodybuilders, I know I have to push them a little bit towards the meat side because I have to be like, you're talking about bulking. They're taking things that's going to make them bulk. Okay, so that's a big deal. So you're going to want to make sure you look into where your family comes from and what your genetics or your haplotype, not blood type. Don't get into the blood type thing. Your haplotype, where your body actually comes from, becomes important. Like if you're from a Mediterranean area, when people do a lookup on you, you might want to stick to a more Mediterranean diet. If you're from an African location, there's going to be a huge amount of sun and water based in your diet. There's going to be very little to no meat at all. Like and then you got cold climate people where you're going to have some you don't have to do the meat mixed in, but you have that ammonia transport system as a part of your genetics, and that helps you actually break down meat from I'm not going to say break down meat, but you have a way of processing ammonia so you don't get the fallout from the ammonia issues like gout and rigid bones and and rigidity in your body, like you get osteoarthritis and stuff like that. Ammonia problems can cause a few issues if you don't have anything to process it properly. So yeah, so you might want to get a consultation from somebody like KT, or even if someone in your area really knows geography very well and they do holistics. So that'll help kind of center in on that. So yeah, keep an eye on these things. So if you're gonna make sure before you taper off of things, generally if someone wants to go healthy and they don't have the proper knowledge yet, I will tell them if you're used to eating a fully meat-based diet, like if that's been your thing, then I need them to back down to 2 days a week. And if I have them back down, I usually stick them towards turkey and fish. And fish like cod, whiting, salmon, not so much catfish, not so much what's the other one? It's the one that I hate that they put on tacos all the time. It's a real popular fish, but it's a very compromised fish. That's why I'm not a fan of it. But yeah, you want to get all that together. There you go. Black Voltron put KT's website on the website for you. Thanks a lot too, Black Voltron. I know you be doing your thing every time you come in. Always appreciate it. So yeah, check that out. What other things we got? So we were talking about, we got the meats. We know dairy has something called casomorphine in it. Hold on, let me roll the window down for real. It's getting hot in this joint. The temperature is getting there. We're getting back to the melanated temperatures, y'all. Tilapia, that's right, that's the one. Yeah, I know you're black, but you still want to I mean, unless you're strict, you absolutely, like a large majority are strictly from Africa. If that's the case, then you need to back down off that seafood. I'd say at the very most, if you're gonna have anything, it's gonna be rare. It's gonna probably be fish, because I know a lot of people's African ancestry has a lot of affinity with fish. So yeah, my aunt's situation is heavily based on her atrial fib, and she was the type. She was very direct. She was like, well, when they told her to get rid of seafood, she was like, well, you got to find something else because I ain't getting rid of that. I started laughing. I was like, look, she being real, so I can't hate on somebody being real, right? But she don't want to give up the seafood, so she gonna keep taking the supplemental stuff, and and that atrial fib and the magnesium issues. I guess that's just gonna keep piling up on her. So hold up, they got the buses coming in. Let me roll the window up. So Start getting too much background interference on the sound. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, if you have not done so yet, also Danielle, feel free to go get a blood test out of the doctor's office. There's nothing wrong with knowing what the hematocrit is, creatine levels, allergens, if you haven't had an allergy test yet. There's nothing wrong with doing those things. Those ain't gonna hurt you. Because sometimes you could find that some of your numbers are out of whack, and that's the thing throwing everything off. Sometimes what you're doing is not too bad, and you got a number or two that's off, and you just gotta fix that up. Like people who are low on energy, sometimes they go get a test and they be like, yeah, whatever you were doing, something's dragging your iron levels down. When you go to the gym, when people first become vegan, they wonder why their energy levels drop so fast. It drops fast because of creatine. When you eat muscle meats, it has creatine in it. When you start to taper off and don't get meat anymore, you don't get the supplemental form of creatine anymore, which means you have to tell your body to build it. And in order to do that, you got to put pressure on it. So you bang out, let's say you're doing some pull-ups, you bang out some pull-ups, you bang out another set, bang out another set, you get sore and you get tired. And you be like, man, you try and get your second wind and you can't get your second wind. That's because the creatine is lacking. How do I explain creatine to people? Okay, so you go to the store with $100 bill. You give the cashier, you buy $100 worth of clothing, food, whatever. The cashier, for some reason, gives you $50 back to keep shopping. That's creatine. You have a certain amount of energy. And what happens is in the actual biology, so now that I explain that, what happens in actual biology is you eat the food breaks down to a carb, the carb turns into acetyl coenzyme A, that goes into the electron transport chain and breaks down further into electrons and NAD and FAD. The electrons you got go in through the use of NAD and FAD into the electron transport chain where the electrons play hot potato. And it goes through 5 cycles. Hot potato 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And at certain points in the cycle, the protons and the electrons break apart. Protons go outside the gradient, electrons stay inside. Whenever you get protons and electrons spreading further apart, then you get a stronger electrical gradient trying to pull them back together. But there's actually a line blocking them from getting together. So it finds another way in. So the protons start, on the outside, they start flowing towards the end of the chain. The electrons flow towards the end of the chain, but they stay in the matrix. And it keeps playing hot potato with the electron. When they both get to the end of the matrix, there's a spinning turbine at matrix number 5. We call it cytochrome 5. That turbine needs to smash together phosphorus because the phosphorus creates the energy. What drives the system to make the phosphorus so you can have the energy is the electron transport chain. So eventually what happens is the hydrogen, the protons, go to the end of the transport chain, and when the turbine spins, it causes the hydrogens to start flying back in and smashing into the electrons, creating a half a water molecule. But the energy of it shooting through that turbine causes the phosphorus to smash together. So you got a double phosphorus and a single. So you got two inorganic phosphorus and one organic, and it smashes them together, and they call it ATP. The energy comes from when the phosphorus breaks apart. Okay. So when it breaks apart, it creates light and energy that your body uses to drive itself. So that's how that whole system works with digestion. You're literally breaking food down to get electrons, to power the mitochondria's electron transport chain so you can create light. And then you can break open the chain of phosphorus to shine light into the dark places, so to speak, and create the energy needed to keep the system going. So it's all about recycling light, which is recycling phosphorus. And it recycles because of electricity. Electricity you get from food, electric food, meaning the food with the water, the fiber, and the minerals and stuff in it. You got all these metals in your body, which can be conductive or insulating, that your body uses to create enzymatic reactions, which speed things up, slow things down. You see what I mean? You get this whole, that's why learning how a cell works teaches you the entire thing about metabolism and how the body builds up and breaks down. The gut function is just saying, how do I get things in? That's why the gut is such a big deal, because if things can't get in and out to get onto this highway that we call the bloodstream, then without having packages on the so I'll put it to you like this: the digestive tract, where the shipping containers come in, your body is able to take those materials, move them into the bloodstream. Your bloodstream is like a highway where it's driving into areas that need the materials. If you're not getting absorption, the materials never get in, and the materials have to come out of your bone, which gives you osteoarthritis, because your bones are dense. It's packed full of minerals. Whenever you have a lot of acid or things wrong in your body that need to be fixed, and you don't have it in your food coming in, your body has to pull it out of your bone. You degrade the bone, you start aging, because bone is where your new cells, You know, cells have a lifespan. They die, they live. When the cells start to die, your body pulls stem cells from your bone to make new cells. If you keep bringing minerals in, you can keep building up the bone to keep the cells constantly turning over. You tear the bone down, eventually you run out of copies. And then the cell tries to live without breaking down. If it does break down and no new copy comes, you have less cells to keep your body going. So you slow down as you age. If you never turn the cell over and the cell is just sitting there and no one's killing it or building it up or making it have a baby, then it becomes cancerous. See, all these things chain together. No problem, Danielle. Oh, what else you got? What else we got in here? Anybody else in here? All right, everyone looks good so far. So what else we got? I was talking about the dairy. I was about to bring that in. Dairy is huge in sodium and salt. So when you're huge in sodium and salt, you make the body hold more water. That's why people say when you eat that dairy, it stall you up. Like you don't be going to the bathroom a lot. It's packed. First of all, the gumminess of it, the just the protein structure of it is it takes long to break down. And then there's a high amount of salt inside of it, so it's making you hold wastewater. So that right there is why they say cheese is not good for you, because it kind of gums up the works. It slows down your digestion. And that's why they be like, yo, your colon just be packed full of all kinds of craziness. So cheese in of itself is like a no-go. Um, what else do they have? If y'all ever hear people talking about pre and probiotics, that's fiber. Fiber is your pre and probiotics. Your bacteria interface with fiber. And bacteria is a part of the reason you get B12. So if you have good bacteria in your gut and you're putting proper things in your gut to feed the bacteria, you'll always have pre and probiotics, which biotic just means life. So they're talking about the bacteria. So pre-bacteria is what's in your gut. Pro-bacteria is what's there after you eat. So it's just two sides of the same coin. If you keep eating good food, good soiled, healthy vegetables, vegetation, fruits and stuff like that, your gut population will be fine and their digestion will be fine. It'll stay that way. Trying to get it back is a little more trickier. That's what we were talking about earlier. Tell me what it is, Al. Is that how you spell it? Sheila G. What's my take on Sheila G? It doesn't ring a bell unless I'm reading it wrong. Some things I hear and I read them wrong. So give me a heads up on what that is. And then if I don't know, I'll just say I don't know. If I do know, I'll give you what I got. If it has a biochemical function and you mention it to me, I'll tell you what it's doing. So it can go a couple of ways with it. Now we talked about the meat, the bread, the cheese, the sugar, the salt. What other kinds of things we got? Kind of craziness we got kind of rocking around the body, right? Frequencies. You guys hear a lot about the 5G, the 4G, and stuff like that. I actually did a while ago. I did a whiteboard talk on that. I don't know if it's still up because I know when YouTube started finding past videos talking about COVID, they started pulling, using that to ding you and stop your channel. So I pulled a lot of stuff down. So just so I didn't have to worry about that. Because they say the problem is they don't pull your stuff down just for misinformation like everyone thinks. They pull your stuff down when it doesn't agree with the consensus of the medical world. And you have to understand that's an entire system. So if we were to create our own studies and own science, and that science negates what the system is already built to do, then for that reason they'll reject it. They'll give you negatives on peer reviews, and people will just outright say they don't want it mainstream. They got that kind of power. And that's what we mean when we say racism is not about how I feel about you. It's your ability to control my living situation. So what you're going to find is when you're talking about the frequencies and stuff, right? There is what they call a resonance, a resonating frequency of the earth. And when Nikola Tesla was building his Tesla coil, he knew what the resonant frequency was. So he was going to ground a copper wire in order to allow people to hook their electronics into the earth's frequency so it wouldn't harm us. But, they told him like, yo, we on the money system, Tesla. We're not going to rock like that. So at that point, his science became the future, but they kind of moved him out of the way. He spent his last 40 years like feeding the birds and living out of his apartment. So he didn't have much of a last 40 years of his life, but he was kind of fulfilled, I guess you could say, because he always said, no matter what technology you create, my rotating magnetic field will live forever. Because what the world actually is, what develops the working universe is rotating magnetic fields. That's why I always tell people what you call the Big Bang or the word or the way space unfolds, it unfolds in a twisting magnetic pattern that we call a toroid. It twists out depending on how strong the disturbance is. It's it's like a rubber band. You disturb it by pulling it harder, and it'll go out but so far, and it'll be ready to snap back. So what happens is the toroidal field is like this. There's a plane of inertia which is flat, and then when you disturb it, it spirals out into like a donut shape. And the donut shape is made up of grid lines. The grid lines are electro and magnetic lines, or you'll hear people say stuff like the dielectric, right? But it's electro magnetic lines, and where it grids, like you got lines that line the side of it and lines that go around spiraling back in, and it's a whole spiraling grid pattern that curls in and a side that curls out. And you got space, which is what's inside of that magnetic field, and counter space, which is would be the opposite of it that you don't see. So for everything there's an opposite thing, right? And where those grid lines connect is where light is. And that's where light comes into the fold. So electricity, magnetism, light, you got space. When that space gets disturbed and comes out, it always tries to contract. If it maintains the frequency, then the shape will hold. If the frequency stops, it will start to contract. This twisting contractile back, because remember, it unfolded in a twist and it comes back in the opposite twist. And that opposite twist, we call it gravity, but it's also called spin. What we call gravity is spin. It's an electromagnetic phenomenon, because remember, the lines of force are electro and magnetic, and when they cross, they make light. When they spiral out, you have the whole grid. When they spiral in, you still have the grid. It's just spiraling back the other way. So you still have the same thing. So it's a magnetic force line. That's what it is. So if you guys haven't seen his channel, check out Kenneth Wheeler. He talks about that a lot. Now, because there is a resonant frequency, the body has the ability to pick up frequencies. It's almost like there's a way with all of this atmosphere we got, there's different frequencies flowing throughout. And what happens is those frequencies can band up. And when those frequencies band up, you're talking about like you might have the toposphere and there's different areas of space, like down here and then upwards in the sky and then the crust below the earth. There's different frequencies there. And what happens is the earth kind of has those things organized. When you throw an additional frequency into it, you kind of throw this, I'm gonna use a different word, you throw the sound of the universe and the sound of the organs off. Your body works very well in proper environment with natural sound, natural atmosphere. That's why you like the sound of water and the sound of trees blowing and things like that. Those are natural sounds, natural atmosphere. When you throw another frequency inside of that, the tune doesn't go well with your body. Remember, you have organs because you're an organism, and organs make sounds. The universe means single sound. Multiverse means multiple sound. So what happens is when you interfere with the sound, which means you're interfering with a frequency, then you interfere with the organs that normally work well off of a certain tuning of the frequency. So you get words like attune, atom, adum, right? So that's where all of that comes from. So that's the important part that you guys got to understand. Everything in the universe works to a certain tune. And when someone disturbs the tune, it disturbs you. So even if you can't pick it up, because remember, your body does things and then you do things. You're just the master controller of the outside world. The internals do their thing to keep you alive. And its job is to feed off of the pressures it receives. So it receives frequency pressures, applied kinetic pressures, chemical pressures, all different kinds of pressures, right? So as long as you're receiving pressure, your body knows how to keep a push and pull of those pressures going endlessly to keep you alive. Now, everything in the world has to receive a certain amount of pressure for a certain period of time before it just runs out of energy. The difference between those little small things that make that happen and you is you are a combination of those small factors, and those small factors keep renewing themselves. For instance, blood has 90 to 120 day period. So in 90 to 120 days, your blood cells will turn over. Each individual cell lives up to a maximum of 120 days. It lives less if you destroy it. You see what I mean? And then your body has to turn over the cells faster. And then I'm going to say what I said earlier. If your body's turning over cells too fast and there's not a lot of nutrition and healthy things going on, it's going to start to pull those new cells out of your bone. And when you run out of the ability, that bone marrow that helps you create those new stem cells, when that runs out, osteoarthritis and aging, because now the cells can't turn over. There's no new materials to do it. So this is how the chain of health is consistently happening. So the frequency just says, when everything's in tune with one another, then it moves at its most efficient way. So a symphony, an orchestra is a good example. That's where that comes from, right? Remember, I told you all sciences on earth come from the body. So the symphony, the orchestra is when all the frequencies are playing in tune and your body can tell. And your body is made up of a certain shape. Remember, your fingerprint is different, your heart shape is different, your hair, the pattern of your hair is different than every human being. You have a way of like doing things where people are like, oh, that's that person. Your fingerprint is just one example of that. His fingerprint goes that way. That's because the magnetic field your heart pulsates and creates, just like the universe does. When your heart pulses, toroidal field, there's an area around you where you can pick up frequencies, different magnetic fields can be absorbed into yours. Your heart is creating the beat to be played to. That's a part of the frequency. That's a part of the song. And when other frequencies like 5G signals, strong frequencies start interfering with that, it's creating a friction and your body has to fight back against that to balance it. And when it's doing that, it's eating your energy faster than it normally would. And if you start to get out of whack because you're combining it, meaning you're sitting in front of Wi-Fi frequencies, you might live near a radio tower, you're eating bad food, you're in front of a bunch of blue light, you're just hyper bombarding your body with unnatural electromagnetic fields. And that saps your energy and causes things like your circadian rhythm to go out of whack. For some reason, you can't sleep now because you're telling your body that the sun is up in the middle of the night because you got all this blue light. And then you're looking at your cell phone, you're looking at the TV, you're working in front of a computer desk. You put blue blockers on, but they only solve half the problem. You keep the blue spectrum of light from coming in as strong, but the vibration of the frequency can still give you macular degeneration. You see what I mean? So the key is at the end of the day, we're trying to find ways to live in an unnatural system with a natural body, and it does not work. And the reason why we can't get ahead of it is because you're chasing our tail. We're waiting for them to come out with something bad so we can respond to it instead of just jumping in front of it and saying no more bad, like no more of that. But it helps when you come with some sort of counter offer. Like if you study your ancestors so well, then why can't you perform organic technology the way they can? If you can do that, then you have a counter offer. Well, we got these Wi-Fi towers and they really work. Well, I'm using an ancient electromagnetic and metal plate system that the pyramids use, and that's giving me my magnetic field, except it's grounded in the Earth's frequency. So I want to be able to use that where I come from. That kind of stuff, right? But if you're not offering anything to push back against the system, majority of people are going to ignore you, and the energy always goes where majority of the energy is flowing. So if more people are going to the negative side, negative energy will flow on Earth. If there's enough people pushing back, then you'll create a balance and you'll always have an escape place. But if you keep letting the bad push hard enough, eventually you're going to wake up in a world where it's like, wear a mask, drink the water we filtered for you, eat the artificial food we created, take the artificial medicine that we created, interface on the technology. Don't go meet one another in real atmospheres. Put your glasses on and get in the digital world. And then eventually it's going to be like, if you're about to die, we'll just upload your consciousness into an artificial robot who probably has XNA DNA. So you don't actually eat earthly food anymore. You got to eat food we create for you for the new DNA strand we just put in you. See, that's what you get. You get all this mixture of craziness, right? Is donating blood a bad thing for blood health? Not if the proteins match up. That was one thing that doctors are good at that. That's one thing I can say. Because the blood is a bunch of balls of iron. And iron has it has a way of attracting electrons to it. But because iron has its own magnetic field, if you push enough blood into someone's body and you make it flow, then the heart will beat and change the magnetic torsion lines towards what the new heart is beating. But the proteins is the issue. Because remember, you got albumin and all these other proteins in the blood. So what happens is you don't want to have like A positive blood with B negative blood and stuff like that being mixed, because when the proteins coat on the blood that give it that letter is what determines whether it combines well. Otherwise, it's acting like an allergen. Like, your blood type, your protein types in your body is like two cogs trying to fit each other. If the proteins line up well, then they mesh. But if the protein shape is kind of off, then they bang against each other and it creates an irritation, a friction, a bad frequency, so to speak. Because friction is a type of frequency, creates a type of information, of type of light. All frequencies are light, whether you can see it or not. They help create shapes, chemicals, all kinds. It creates everything. Frequency creates everything. A bad connecting frequency, meaning a bad irritation in the wrong spot, will cause a bad forming of a shape. And a bad forming of a shape performs bad functions. And you see those as allergens. Okay? So the right blood type can be placed into someone's bloodstream And then the magnetic field, because of the heart, will align it because they both match. So the proteins will flow well. So you don't have any adverse reactions. Body parts are different because remember, the tune that you're built to gives you your own fingerprint. Your muscles are built with a different print than another person. So they got to give you anti-rejection drugs because the magnetic field of that person built a certain heart shape. The heart might, all our hearts might look the same, but that's to untrained eyes that aren't looking close. When you see the fibers in the tissues and how the heart is made up, just like the fingerprint, the actual line and structure is different. So when you put it in there, it's like the fibers don't line up. So your body is like, you get weird things happening. Like you hear stories about people saying like when their heart got put in them, they kind of started acting like the other person. They find stuff like that because the two magnetic fields are balancing. The body that the person had was built to receive a certain magnetic field. You put a new heart in it and the heart is beating a new magnetic field and the shape of the body isn't built on it. So you give it anti-rejection drugs to kind of stop that frequency, that signal, just so it kind of says, look, just receive the electricity and the beat, and you'll give them things like a pacemaker to help keep the beat. Like you get all this other crazy stuff happening in the doctor world that I can't explain because I'm not that deep, right? But that's what I'm saying. This whole thing is a sound that creates shapes that are based on pressures of the environment. The pressure of the environment creates a certain magnetic field, which builds a certain human being, a certain shape, and that allows that body, that shape, to interact with the environment certain ways. And when bad shapes come in contact with other shapes, it causes allergic reactions and bad reactions. It's about environment because your body can receive a certain pressure, and there's a certain pressure that's perfect for you. And that environment that's perfect for you, certain foods are built in that environment that are pressurized and shaped perfectly for you because you came from the same environment. So those proteins line up well. They hydrate you. They give you mad nutrition. You got tons of energy. Your mood is excellent. This is where environment kind of jumps the gun in terms of like people's health. If you're stressed, if your food is bad, you're in a food desert, you're near a chemical factory, you got a bunch of smokers around you. Environment. You're supposed to have a certain amount of pressure on you and you're getting all these chemical reactions. Your body's like, yo, it's steady on the defense. Your fight and flight response is going off like crazy. So you're stressed all the time. And chronic stress is the problem, not regular stress. Regular stress your body can handle. Give me some B12, charge up a little bit of that iron, some ATP, a little bit of fat, a little bit of sugar. Yeah, I mean, we're going to fight, we're going to handle. When them reserves start running dry and that B12 start running out, rigid nerves, shakiness, probably some MS. You see what I mean? Because B12 is used to build the myelin sheath on your nerves. That's the thing people tell you gives MS. That myelin sheath is a coating on your nerves that's kind of a slick liquid. It's like a gel. And remember, gels, it's a type of water. So it makes electricity and sound move faster. See? So that's why your body has to be wet. Otherwise, signals don't get there fast enough to power this kind of complex being. Okay? Solution-based thinking, yeah. Let's see. Y'all got anything else for me? I got 5 minutes, guys, and then I gotta rock out of here because it's just about that time to get the track and field juices flowing, get the camera out, get the big lens out, and start doing what I do. So what else y'all got for me? Because I got plenty more, because when we're talking about the big things that harm health, I mean, what? We hit frequencies. I didn't go too much into chemical yet. And chemical's easy. Like, yo, show y'all how they got me, right? Look at this bag. So I'm looking for something to munch on while I do photography, right? And I'm looking at this bag and I'm seeing what? I'm seeing stuff at the bottom. Like I'm like fast shopping. It's got the gluten-free whole grain and it's kettle corn. So at the most, I'm probably accepting the fact there might be a little bit of sugar in it, which I was right. The sugar content is very low and it's got some fiber in it to match it up because it's popcorn. So I was expecting that. You know what threw me off? I read the ingredient label and I'm like, all right, I see the cane sugar in there and the brown sugar. I was expecting that because that makes up that little bit of sugar, right? What made me not open the bag and say, nah, I just got to wait it out until I get done and go find something else? On the back of the bag, artificial flavors, F, D, and C, yellow number 5, red number 40, and blue number 1. Once I start seeing those color joints, I'm like, they got me. They got me. It's a cheap bag, but I'm like, they got me. So I never popped them Jones open and ate them because I'm like, it's too questionable. A little bit of sugar I would have rocked with because, I'm going to be running around that track. Well, I'm not going to be running, but I'm going to be moving around and in the sun so much, I'm going to burn the calories quick because there's not a lot of sugar in there. The carbs is very low. But once I saw the chemicals, I saw the red 40 and the yellow 5 and all that, and the blue one, I'm like, all right, well, there goes that. Now they got me. I know, right? You can get the kettle corn. There's a red bag in Wawa that I used to get. You look at that, it's just got a little salt, little sugar in it, and it's kettle corn. And that's it. Salt, sugar, corn. No extra stuff, no butter, no crazies, nothing like that. It's just got a little excess sugar and a little excess salt. Nowhere near the daily recommended amount. So not enough to take a brother out of here and really tear you up. So it was enough to have like as a walk around food. But that right there just killed it. So now all I'm gonna be walking around with is the big boy bottle. Say what my cousin used to say, the big dick bottle of water, right? That's what we call it. Look, you got the young boy with the juice, and then you got the big dick bottle of water, right? That's what we call it. He would call it that when he would when I had my cousin when he would drink vodka. You get like the extra husky John, you would call it the big dick bottle, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take down this green juice. I'm gonna put my water on the edge of my bag. Actually, it's gonna be rough. I might actually just drink some of the water, a lot of the water, and just walk in because I don't even want to carry my bag because another thing I gotta worry about, my camera slings off one shoulder. When I put my bag on, I get a lot of too much leaning in one side, and I need a chiropractor every now and then to keep me reset. So, but yeah, but all right, peoples, as usual, like the video, subscribe. I know Voltron was probably in there hitting that, telling y'all already. Right at the bottom of my screen, where I point like, yeah, at the bottom of the screen, Marvin Health and Arts. If you're not following me on Instagram, sometimes I'll post on there when I'm going live and put little tips about food. Sometimes little drawings and movies and video games I play will go up on there because that's why it's called Health and Arts. And you have my Cash App there too, because I always tell people when you make the Cash App, that gets the juices flowing for me to do something creative and do something new. Last but not least, when the video is done, don't comment in the live chat section. If you think of questions and things you want me to live stream on later, put that in the comments after the video ends. So put that in the comment section there because that's what comes to me after the video ends. If you put it in the live chat, I don't see it. Okay, so keep that in mind. I don't see a lot of live stream people saying that, but you have to put it in the comment section after the video's over, not the live chat section. Okay. All right, peoples. Enjoyed the company. Thanks for hanging out with me for a little bit. I hope you got something out of it. Research all the information I give you. You know, I'm not a medical doctor. I spend my time putting things together no differently than some of y'all do. So if you come up with new information, let me see. Somebody asked me about something earlier. So in the chat later on, Al Campbell put it on there. You said my take on Shilajit, I think it's called, or Shilajit. Put that in the comments and let me know what it is. I'll take a look into it. Maybe I know what it is and just don't recognize the name, but we'll see. All right. Yeah, if you get you some slippery on with water, make sure you take these things in your last meal. Try and keep it 3 to 4 hours before you go to bed. Liquid meals is okay 2 hours before bed because it'll go through your digestive tract fast. But at least when you wake up, Danielle, wake up. As soon as you wake up, open your eyes and just chill. Wait a few minutes, sit up, chill, wait a few minutes, drink you some water, and then get up and move around. Don't let your heart rate raise too fast. Somewhere within that first hour of you waking up, and if you like to go to the gym, sometimes it'll kick in then when you get to the gym 2 hours later. You should have to go to not a number one. You should have to do a number two sometime shortly, as long as you don't eat when you wake up. Just leave your body alone. Give it a long period of time to handle the digestion before you go to sleep. And digestion means it comes out, out of the stomach and into the small intestine where processing happens, where it pulls the minerals out and packages it up to eliminate. If you go to sleep with food in your stomach, your body's handling digestion while you sleep. So everything's not packaged and ready when you wake up. So eat plenty of time before you go to bed. Like I said, liquids are good about 2 hours before you go to bed, unless it's water. Don't drink heavy water before you go to bed because you'll keep popping up and going to the bathroom. That was something Lagla Africa taught us. All right, family. Good hanging out with y'all. Love y'all. I'll catch y'all in the next stream. Remember, leave something in the comments if you still got something to say.